Hello, Warhammer YouTubers. It's Hooves of Doom, and I know we're a couple weeks into October, but I thought I'd do a hobby journey video for September. And I didn't make a video for August, so I figured it's kind of a combined one. August in general, I didn't really do too much. It's kind of like a post-move, still a transition, trying to find my groove. I mean, I was in my hobby room and kind of active. You know, we played a little bit, but it wasn't that much. And you know, the the previous year has been a great like almost rebirth for me in the hobby, doing a lot of painting and engaging with the community. And after the move, and I wasn't making a lot of videos, and I kind of stopped painting altogether. And that was kind of a hard transition because I think completing models is one of the things that really keeps you going and motivates you to continue to paint. And I was kind of a little bit hesitant and nervous because I know that the painting I was doing was half decent in my mind, at least. And so it was a little bit intimidating to kind of like, well, I haven't painted in like 3 months. Am I going to be terrible at this now after I've maybe all the steps in painting I've completely forgotten, and I just will be terrible and back to square one essentially. But I think I've gotten back into the groove. The last couple of weeks I have been painting quite a bit, and so I think I'm back on that horse, which I'm happy to say. So I don't really have much in the ways of painting to really show you this month, but next month there should be a lot because I got a ton of stuff to do for the next 3 weeks. Hoy. Anyways, so I did work a little bit on the gash towards the end of September. I At the end of this video, I'm going to be talking about the things that I purchased in September. And one thing I didn't mention is all the things I bought for the Holy Havoc tournament. So I kind of did a little bit of that in a previous video, and I showed you the huge pile of models that I have to paint. And I pretty much have all of that to paint in the next 3 weeks. One of the problems is I bought an Xbox, and that's been a problem. So I'm trying to only play video games like 1 or 2 nights a week, and trying to focus my efforts on the hobby because that's what I want to do. I like playing video games, but it's too much of a drain, and I need to create rules and for myself and kind of enforce them, because otherwise I won't do anything, which is not good. So I did work, as I said, a little bit on the gash. Did his robes. I'm following the tutorial from Warhammer TV that they did, I guess, in 2015. And it's coming along. I really think most of these same skills I can apply to the other Mortarks and the Morghasts and things like that. So other than that, I did assemble these kits. So they're all ready to go. They're just kind of gray right now. So I have the 3 Mortarks and the 2 Mournguls and the 6 Morghasts and 50 unpainted skeletons. So like I said, these next 3 weeks I'm going to be like just painting like bonkers. I don't know, to be honest, the Holy Havoc tournament, which is what this is all for, is the first tournament that I'm going to be attending in a very, very long time. And tournaments to me are always like painting right to the last minute. So I hope future tournaments, because I hope to kind of move in and do other events, potentially Las Vegas Open or Adepticon or something like that. And hopefully I'll be a little bit more measured with my painting projects. But it's all good, and I started to rebase the other skeletons too, and I think my wife's going to chip in and help with a little bit of that. But I'm confident that I can get it all done. It's just going to take a lot of work, and I'm going to be painting, probably 3 or 4 hours a day minimum. Probably on the weekends it would be closer to 8 or 9 hours. But it'll get done. It has to get done. The army list has been submitted, and like I said, my wife will kill me if we've been playing games and using these armies, and then all of a sudden it's like, I guess we're not using these models. She would kill me. So community wise, I have a lot of videos to watch on YouTube. I've been behind in my viewing, and so there's a little bit of catching up. But painting, it's a good time to do that. I've also been listening to a lot of podcasts to and from work, and Tyler Emerson's podcast, Scrubby and Wells. It's a great one. I'm really enjoying that one, and the Rolling Bad podcast as well. They're from New Mexico, Albuquerque. They did an event, I think at the beginning of August, and I completely missed it. I was busy kind of unpacking, and I wasn't quite ready for it. But I kind of regret it now not going, and because they seem like a really interesting group of guys, and it'd be kind of it would be great to get a few games in, definitely. So gaming wise, the last couple months, as I said, my wife wanted to do 2 games a week. We haven't quite got to that level, but we have been playing a number of games, at least 1 game a week with the Holy Havoc army. And we started off with just her component of the Holy Havoc army because it's a team tournament. So her half versus whatever else I can put on. It's a scroll based comp. I'll be doing videos a little bit more about that this month. But it's been a bit rough for me on the other side. It's a pretty powerful army. It's a lot of, I think if you were to calculate the points, it would be a pretty significant force. So we've been increasing the size of the games. We've been playing with the complete army. These are huge armies. 2.5 hours. Sheesh. I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge to finish the games in that time slot. That's the one thing I have about tournaments. I'm not a big fan of time constraints. I know they need to have them, but to me it always makes the games feel a bit more rushed, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But I must say, those huge hordes of skeletons, man, they roll a ton of dice. That's definitely not helping with the speed of games. And like I said, they're big armies, 24 scrolls, the equivalent of. And I just don't have the equivalent army to put down against her. Like, I've been putting down as hard an assortment of opposing scrolls as I can, and it's just been a complete blowout every time. Maybe I just suck. That's always a possibility. But for the most part, it's just not been much of a challenge. And she absolutely just dominates every single game. Now, I also made the stupid mistake of, I'm going to start recording my Warhammer stats. So it's like the first 9 or 10 stats are just horrendous losses. So a pretty good time to start doing that. All right. For YouTube, the last couple of months, my video production's been sporadic. Last month was okay. Definitely saw, in terms of the analytics, a dramatic increase because August was pretty much not much at all. September was half decent, although I do want to produce more videos. Gaining subscribers, it's been pretty good. 1 or 2 a day, which has been awesome. It's a huge, once you start producing videos, the odds of people coming across your channel are so much bigger. So making regular content is a huge factor in growing the channel. But I exceeded 400 subscribers last month, and I'm very excited. And so I'm already on the way to 500. And who knows, I might have to do some sort of competition or something. I'm sure it can make up a nice potential prize for someone that watches my videos. So that would, we'll see. I'll probably do it. But I think for this month, you're going to see some Holy Havoc videos. I definitely want to do those. And I want to do some more topical videos as well in response to Vince or others that I've made. And maybe I'll get that eventually, a Warhammer in Classics video finally out. So that's kind of like the synopsis of the hobbying and kind of like the community efforts that I've been doing for the last couple months. October's already been fairly busy, so I hope that the next video is a pretty good one. But I also made quite a bit of purchases, and no surprise there, I guess. Jeez. So in September, I finally got the White Dwarf, and that came with the Khorne Bloodbound Slaughter Priest. So I got that model. I actually got 2 of those because I got 2 copies of that, of the White Dwarf, which I kind of explained in my White Dwarf video. I picked up, and this is kind of like, this is very much an impulse buy, 5 Blood Knights. I've always wanted the Blood Knights for the Vampire Counts line. As we all know, this is one of the most expensive kits that GW kind of makes per model. And, oh man, right now they're all made of resin. I specifically was looking for ones that are made out of metal. Found one cheaper than what Games Workshop, has them for sale for. So I was actually fairly happy with that. They'll be put together and assembled at some point. Because I've bought all these Start Collecting boxes, I have a ton of Black Knights now that are just kind of not, they're not great in the game, but they'll look cool if I kind of make an army that's based around Black Knights or something, because I have probably like 30 or 40 Black Knights or something ridiculous at this point. And then the Dark Elf Cold One Riders. These are old, like obviously the older version. I have some of the newer ones. I like collecting the older models. I just think they're kind of interesting from the perspective of a collector, I guess. I don't know if I'd ever really use them on the battlefield. I like to keep the armies fairly specific to the historical genre. So like I would use a Dark Elf army with all the modern models, but maybe I might bring out the older models and design an army specifically around those or something like that. But I bought a lot of these models from like a used a store, and so it's kind of like this kind of interesting bundle, half decent priced. And then with those was a box of the old metal Black Orcs, which would be good. I mean, eventually I might make an Iron Jaws army, and so those would be somewhat useful. And then finally on the model side, the last purchase was a Sisters of Battle Repentia set. It's missing one of the sisters. Again, this was kind of a used box set. A couple of them are painted. I'll have to strip those down before I actually work on them. My wife is actually pushing me to buy these. And I've always wanted a Sisters of Battle army. I guess that's not surprising because I like to collect almost every army. I only have about 10 Sisters of Battle besides this box, so it's kind of a fledgling army at best. This was cheaper than, again, what GW would sell them for, so kind of a win there. Interestingly enough, there's a Warhammer TV video out this week where they unveiled Magnus the Red, a demon Primarch of the Thousand Suns Chaos Space Marine chapter. And so at the end of that video, the reason I bring that up is they also teased the potential of bringing out a Sisters of Battle in plastic. So who knows? But it's kind of weird that my wife, I think the only army in 40K that she might potentially be interested in would be Sisters of Battle. They're kind of a controversial aesthetic though, and I don't think she's fully aware of like the complete model range. She just knows that they're all women. So I also bought 3 older army books. I have almost the complete Army book codex set up until like, well, I have almost all the fantasy ones now. I'm missing a lot of the 40k ones for the last couple of years. But I bought the Dogs of War Army book, and the High Elves Army book. And I like buying these to see the transition in story, in the potential lore. I like looking at the older models, and if for a collector, they're kind of useful to see what models were available, as well. And then on the 40k side, I actually got the Tyranid Codex from 2nd edition. I think that's the last 2nd edition codex as well. But man, there's such a huge transition between those old, like the very first generation Tyranid models and the 3rd edition Tyranid models. Like dramatically different appearance. And then I picked up a Start Collecting book. Oh, it's not Start Collecting book. Oh, geez, what do they call them? You can see the picture on the screen, of course, but it's basically these books that come out with the. They're for collectors, and they had all the models in the range at the time. This one's a little bit weird because it was actually a store copy at a Games Workshop, so I don't know how that managed to get on the market, but in many respects, some of these are pretty useful. The Chaos one for Warhammer is great because it goes really far back and it does a lot of different models. Ironically, this does go back to like the early 90s, and it does list a lot of old models. But Imperial Guard are one of those weird armies because most of the models are still available through the GW website, which is highly unusual for models that old to be still available. So it's actually not that useful to me at this point. And then finally, I picked up 12 older copies of White Dwarf from the early 80s. Again, another very much an impulse buy. They're decently priced, I thought. And they're just beautiful magazines. I like to collect White Dwarf. And I've never gotten quite this old. I think I don't know what my next oldest White Dwarfs would be, but I think they're probably like issue 150 around there. So these are all like in the 40s, and pretty old. I love the artwork on these. I think they're just beautiful. And the kind of, that period before Warhammer was fully developed and even potentially available. So I flipped through them. They're very much based upon role-playing games. You can see on the front cover, that's specifically the focus of this magazine. So it's a bunch of other games. A few of them are affiliated with Games Workshop. But it's a very much a role-playing magazine at this point. There is advertisements at the very back for the 1st edition of Warhammer, which is kind of interesting to see. And competitively priced, I think about 10 British pounds. So it's not quite the same today. Anyway, that is the end of my hobby journey for August and September. And hope to see you soon in upcoming videos. Have a good one.